Hello everybody and welcome back to Juno New Origins, where we are currently proceeding with our arrow breaking here, and I kind of do not want to do any additional burning at this time. We'll see if maybe that changes, but for now I kind of just want to arrow break. So let's warp around to somewhere like here, or thereabouts. We're going to want to run our solar panels for as long as we can, of course, and then we'll drop this right on down to 10x as we approach the atmosphere, which we pretty much are in now. So let's go ahead and bring these solar panels on in. We don't want to lock on retrograde, it seems. But that doesn't really matter, I don't think. This is probably because we don't have any electricity. That is my guess at this moment. So yeah, we're having a really hard time with electricity, but I don't actually mind that. So if we look at our overall apoapsis here, our apoapsis should be beginning to drop, and we're going to tumble a bit here. This is fine for the moment, although power is going to be a bit of an issue going forward. No doubt about that. So we've got a ways to go to the periapsis. We're doing a good amount of arrow braking here. I wish we were a little bit more aerodynamically stable, but alas, we are not. Okay, well, for the moment, this is absolutely fine. We'll be arriving at the periapsis very shortly here, and you can see our apoapsis dropped a pretty decent amount there. We're at the periapsis now, so let's bring this right on up, and as soon as we exit this atmosphere, then we're going to have to re-enable our solar panels. That's going to be a top priority. And I think right now I'm going to turn off this guy. Okay, so we're going to do that for right now, and we're just waiting at this point until we get out of this atmosphere. We're still watching our apoapsis drop on down here. And that all looks pretty decent. So no major issues as of right now. We're not seeing any heating issues, not that we'd expect any, and we're going to make our way right on out of this atmosphere very shortly here. We're currently at 917, eventually it'll happen, and there's some kind of like wild movements going on with this thing. No doubt about that. But let's get this right on up. We're at 997 for our apoapsis right now, so that's not bad. We're going to be in the atmosphere for a fairly long time here, but the ambient temperature just went away. I believe we are now officially out of the atmosphere, so let's extend out our solar panels, start getting some power flow again. There we go. And we're just going to be building up power for the time being. So we definitely managed to shave off about 33 kilometers from our apoapsis there. That's not too bad. So right now, what I want to be doing is I want to just be basically holding attitude here. Whoa. This is some strange behavior. I think this is happening because the solar panels are bumping into each other. Okay, let's take this up to 25x. That should solve that problem. Cool. So at this point, we need to head around to the apoapsis, and we need to warp around and take another pass, right? So let's bring this around to about here. There we go. So we've managed to build up a little bit of juice here, and the overall idea is that once we hit the atmosphere, which I'm going to be doing some of this. There we go. Now we've hit the atmosphere. Let's stow these solar panels. Let's go to 10x speed. And, okay, this is beginning to immediately tumble. Hilarious. Let's just move it right on back like so, and let's see if we can hold attitude here with the power that we generated. We're at 34.5. Okay, that's steadily draining off. Our gyroscope is barely sipping any power to hold us here, but we don't have a lot of watt hours, so this is going to be a little spicy. We're going to lose attitude at a certain point, I think. The question is, what point, and does that matter? So this is definitely pretty wildly overbuilt, right? But we have a lot of drag that's going to build up on these solar panel arrays, apparently. And that seems absolutely wonderful. So I'm just keeping an eye on our apoapsis and periapsis markers here. We're still currently about 6 minutes to periapsis, so we are shaving off a lot of speed here. Now, I'm deliberately not burning here, and that's why I say that we're extremely overbuilt for this. We've got a lot of fuel in these tanks that we don't exactly need, and at this point it's kind of just dead weight, but we also can't really do anything with it. So it's a little bit awkward. There's no doubt about that. We are at the periapsis now, so this is looking good. I'm noting the apoapsis here. That seems relatively fine. I'm not too upset about that situation there. So we're approaching the periapsis now. We just hit the periapsis. How are we doing on... Oh, wow, we've still got a decent amount of power, actually. That's going to get worse, though, that situation. So that's understood. Are we coming out of the atmosphere? I'm not sure we're going to come out of the atmosphere. No, we're not. Okay, in that case, commencing burn. We're going to shave off what we can in terms of surface velocity because we're not coming back out of the atmosphere at this time. So what I want to do is I want to just get this surface velocity as down as we can. And we're, of course, going to also drain out of this tank. So let's drain like that, and we can turn this tank off at this time. There we go. And we're just going to drain out as much fuel as possible. I'd like to not go over into the dark side here, so we're just going to slow down quite a lot. If we go into orbital velocity, you can see we're traveling at about 5.2 kilometers per second right now, and we're going down a lot. And that's fully understood. I want to drain off as much of this fuel as we can, and then we're going to switch over to our heat shield at that point. We're going to wait until we start seeing any significant heating problems, but we have managed to shave off quite a lot of our speed at this point. And our overall... Oh, we ran out of juice. Okay, now we're going to start tumbling. That's a little awkward, but we're almost out of fuel. So I think for the moment it's fine. We can't gimbal our engines, remember? So we're just going to tumble a little awkwardly here. But we're so close to being out of fuel, I just want to burn the rest of this fuel out, and this is still majoritively going towards reducing our velocity. So I think that's reasonably fine for right now. Okay, we're at 1% fuel remaining in our big tank, and that's gone as of now. Our little tank here is going to drain fairly quickly. You can see how much delta V we have in this stage. It's not a lot. We don't really want to be in this attitude, but I guess it'll have to do for now. I think when our power went out, we have a small amount of gimbal on our engines, so we're just going to tumble a little bit. But like I said, we're still majoritively working down our lateral velocity, which is fine by me. So that seems okay. We're going to be jettisoning these shortly. So we've gotten a lot of our speed reduced. 3, 2, 1, and we're out of fuel now. So I'm ditching that, and now our heat shield is exposed. The real question at this point is, can we get the heat shield pointed? That'll be interesting. We have no real way to steer this, of course. And at this altitude, there's absolutely no way that we're going to be angling our, or rather, we're going to be opening our solar panels. That's not going to happen. You can see here, our orbital velocity is slightly increasing at this moment. That should be only in the vertical velocity. Our lateral velocity should still be decreasing. But this tumble is not ideal. That's for sure. So there's still definitely a power issue here, and I would like to address that. However, this is wanting to sit in an interesting angle. It's not a good angle. But it is interesting. The way that it's tumbling means that things are going to have a fair amount of time to cool off. They're only going to be... Yeah, fuel tank taking damage here is not good. It's this tank. If we were able to angle this correctly, this wouldn't be a problem. So at this point, it's a power issue. Why is this so much more difficult than Atraitus? That's interesting. I think it's because the atmospheric characteristics are very different. So this is going to go boom. And this is because we could not actually angle that correctly. So a couple of things. Thing number one. Our battery likes to drain very, very significantly. And when we get that going, if we go ahead and save this flight, if we pull this back and we go into here, when we're actually flying, it likes to charge the battery that's down here, this battery, and it likes to not charge this battery. We're going to have to keep that in mind. But I also kind of want to have a little bit more battery here. I'm going to change this from being Carolocks into being battery. There we go. So that's going to help matters for us a lot. A kind of ridiculous amount. So let's do that. We know we have plenty of fuel. I'm not concerned about dropping that fuel in the slightest. Let's get this out there again. We've learned a lot about how the atmosphere in Atraitus works, and we just need to have the amount of... We need to have the amount of power that we need, right? I know that's very tautological, but we need that. We need additional power to be able to hold attitude for significantly longer. So that is absolutely fine. There goes that outer shell. Most of it, anyway. There goes the rest. Good. And at this point, the inner shell is gone. Fantastic. And our apoapsis looking nice and solid. There we go. So we've got our solar panels charging our batteries right on up. And I'm wondering right now, yeah, so you can see this is at 96%. The battery that is down here is also at 96%. So I want to drain this battery, but I want to fill this battery. These are all... this is considered a tank set. Okay. That's going to be a little awkward. Well, let's go ahead and warp forward here until we're a little closer to the apoapsis for our circularization. Okay. We're about 4 minutes away. Looks good. Okay. Coming out of the time warp and entering physics warp here. And let's get this wrapped on up. Excellent. So orbital insertion is now complete. And at this point, we want to escape velocity here. So let's go to somewhere around here. I don't suppose this is going to be a good transfer window. Probably not. We should probably set Atraitus as our target. That would help matters. But let's go ahead and select this. And if we do something like that, now I want to be back up over here. Yeah, so this is going to be awkward timing indeed. So instead, basically all we want to do is we want to position ourselves right about here, and we're going to want to dial this back quite a lot. So in order to dial that back, we're going to do something like this, and we're going to just get ourselves a bit of a different transfer window. Something along the lines of this. Beautiful. So let's go ahead and execute that, and we'll get ourselves a different transfer window. So I want to pin this open. There we go. Excellent. So we've got about 70% fuel remaining in these drop tanks. That looks absolutely fine for right now. And we're just going to need to make our way up to escape velocity here. So we're at 5% on this burn. We should definitely be warping it. That's a 7-minute burn. Not going to sit here for 7 minutes. So we'll get that burn nice and warped. And then we're just going to look for our encounter. This is going to be very standard, exactly the same way we did this transfer last time. I'm really not concerned about it. We know that we want to set our base height around Atraitus at about 1,000 kilometers, and so we'll work on dialing that in. So nice and easy transfer here. Beautiful. That'll do. I don't really care about the resulting orbit all that much. The thing that really matters here is that we're able to get ourselves a nice selective burn on when we want to make our way out to Atraitus, right? So that is going to be very important here. We're going to have to make this burn significantly differently timed. So that's going to be like around here or so, but the timing on that is still pretty bad. I think we're going to have to go out this direction. Unfortunately, we've got ourselves a bit of a Atraitus encounter out here. But, yeah, this is looking nice. So something about like this, 16 gigameters, we can dial that in quite a lot. Okay, so we're going to need a little bit of perhaps inclination change here. And not even. A little bit of radial. Cool. Even that's not really doing all that much. Fascinating. So this is more of a timing issue then. Really? I'm not sure it is. Yeah, we're just not really dialing it in very much here. Interesting. Well, we can definitely have this be about 3,300 megameters and just set our inclination. That'll be fine. I'm not concerned about it. Execute this. So we're going to do this. We're only on 2500x right now, which is kind of hilarious. And go on and warp. Warp. There we go. Excellent. So, of course, our inclination is going to be wacky here, and that's understood, which is why I'm okay with being a fair amount higher up. This is not a problem. So we'll do 4.7 minutes of burn time here. And this is going to chew through some of this methylox, but again, I'm really, really not concerned about the status of our fuel. We had so much extra fuel on our last run that this really doesn't matter. Okay, so 3276 megameters, I am A-okay with that. Let's warp on forward to the SOI change. So we've got 17% fuel left here, that's fine. We'll be ditching these tanks fairly soon. And there's the SOI change. So as you can see, we're in a pretty polar orbit, but it's also pretty high up. So let's plan a burn at the periapsis here. I don't necessarily want to be in a polar orbit, but we'll be able to change this. And 3276 would be our target here to circularize. So that would be right about... I cannot see. Okay, let's do this. There we go. So 3276, it doesn't have to be perfect. This is close enough. Let's go ahead and do that. And yeah, very much a polar orbit. So we'll see what this ends up looking like for an inclination change. We're pretty high up, so inclination is usually relatively cheap this high. We'll see what that looks like. And entering orbit was quite cheap, so that's not bad. Yeah, I'm okay with this. And then we would go to the... It doesn't matter whether we do the ascending or the descending node. Either would be completely fine here. And then we just look to bring our inclination from 88 degrees to... That's the wrong direction. Out this way. We'd look to bring this down to 0 degrees. So we're going to need some retrograde tossed in here, obviously. With this amount, that's very expected. Okay. Retrograde coming in like this is completely fine, actually. I'm just watching the inclination for the moment. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so that's about the most efficient that we can get on the retrograde side. So this is 1.5 degrees. I'm completely okay with that. At this point, retrograde and normal have basically flipped positions, right? So that's fine. I don't care as long as we're relatively equatorial here, which we are. In fact, maybe a little bit of retrograde here is still necessary, but we'll see. So I want to continue to dial this in down to about 1,000 kilometers. Okay. We're starting to lose some efficiency on that, so that's fine. Little bit of prograde here, actually. Bring that inclination down nicely. There we go. So right at about 1,000 kilometers is our target. This is too low. So we're going to bring this right on up to 1,002. That seems great. So this is going to be an inclination of 2.2 degrees. I don't care. That's fine. That's absolutely close enough. Look at how cheap this is. 268 meters per second. Amazing. Let's do it. So we're going to start that burn up, and that's going to wildly change our orbit. Now, we're going to have a big old braking burn when we get to this 1,002 kilometer marker. That's fine. I'm not concerned about that. So this is only about a 40-second burn to get our orbit changed like this. It's very wild. But there we go. 1,006 kilometers. I'm okay with this. So now we're going to do a burn at the periapsis here, with the idea being we just want to circularize this. This is going to be the expensive burn, and that was always going to be the case. So 1,006 here. Doesn't really matter. This is close enough. And that's going to be 2.56 kilometers per second. That should be fine. Let's go ahead and execute that. So we're going to need to ditch these tanks once we're out of fuel for them, which will be relatively soon. Also, note how low our power is. We should probably do a few orbits recharging our power banks before we try to make any real approach here. So this seems fine. We are burning at this time, and let's just continue to work our way through this. We can see we've got 1.37 kilometers per second in this tank right now. It's going to be a little more than that. So we're going to be ditching these shortly. Okay, off they go, and we've got a little over 2 kilometers per second left in this stage. This should be enough to get us into this orbit. Oh yeah, it's definitely enough. Beautiful. Our periapsis is too low. Okay, we need to make a alteration here. So we're going to need to do a radial outburn here and raise this up to like here. Go ahead and execute that. We need to raise this a little bit. We know that the atmosphere starts at like 925-ish kilometers, and we absolutely need to not be quite that low. So this is fine. I'm not too concerned about this right now. At this moment, what we need to do is we need to store up as much power as we can. So that basically means we're going to be chilling in something like this. And also it means that we're going to turn off this guy. We don't want to be draining power at this time. So I want to do that. I want to set us as being facing towards Juno. So I want to select Juno here, set as target. And then I want to face towards target. So I want to do lock target. Okay. So we are locked to target at this point. Juno is up over there, and that's going to maximize the efficiency of our solar panels. There we go. And then now we're just going to need to warp around for a good long time here. And let's head over to Atraitus at this point. So we're going to select Atraitus. We're going to warp around for a good long time here, and we're just going to focus on recharging our solar panels. So I'm going to do that off camera, and I will be back in the next episode with fully recharged batteries. See you guys in just a moment. And by just a moment, I mean next episode. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Andy McGard, Dark Horse, Xenocyte, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.